Still think that it's a religion of peace? This is what they don't want you reading. Let's start with Surah 929. It literally says fight non-believers until they pay a submission tax. Sounds more like a religious mob than faith. Hadith 5133, grown man marrying 6-year-old, consummated at 9. But sure, let's pretend like that's normal because it was a different time. Oh, and if your wife talks back, Surah 434 says that you can hit her. That's not discipline, that's divine domestic violence. But if you question it or criticize it, they believe that you deserve punishment or worse. But somehow you're the hateful one saying it out loud. It's not Islamophobia. It's called reading. And don't forget, it's not about belief, it's about control. That's why whenever Islam spreads, so does Sharia law. They do not come to blend, they come to reshape. They're not assimilating, they're outbreeding. Now Europe has no-go zones, grenade attacks, not to mention the grooming gangs. France, Sweden, Germany are all learning right now. Just the hard way. This is not Islamophobia because you're not afraid without reason. They call it peaceful, but everywhere it spreads, peace leaves. This is what Surah 839 says. And fight them until there is no fitna, which means disbelief, and religion is all for Allah. This isn't fear, it's facts.
Welcome back to another episode of my series of debunking the lies about Islam. This is episode 3. Now this is a member of the Christian nationalist movement that I am responding to, where she says that Islam is not a religion of peace, and then says it's not Islamophobia just to read and that it's just facts. Basically misconstruing the Quran as well as repeating a hadith, you know which one, that I've already gone over from the first 2 episodes. And this will be the only time where I will repeat myself. After that, I'm no longer going to repeat myself because it's very, very tiresome and very, very annoying. I've already made 2 videos. Go back and watch them. I have them on other forms of social media, most notoriously YouTube and Rumble. But anyways, let's just go ahead and get into it this piece by piece. The first verse that you show is Surah 9 verse 29. And I've already mentioned about this and unpacked this in my second video. In order to understand this verse, you have to read the first 29 verses of Surah 9, where it talks about having war with rival pagan tribes who were attacking Muslims, where the Muslims and the pagans signed a peace treaty. The pagans broke the treaty and attacked the Muslims, and these pagans were forced to pay reparations, or the jizya. So no, Islam in general is not a religious mob. It would be the radical Islamist or jihadist that are. Now you mentioned the hadith. There's a difference between the Quran and the hadith. The Quran is the final message from God, which the Quran alongside the Torah, the Tanakh, which includes the Torah, and the Bible are all messages and words from God and God alone, revealed to different prophets from different times. Hadiths are compilations from different imams and Islamic scholars on what they believe to be the words and teachings and historical accounts of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And not all of them are authentic, fully, as many of them can be debunked through the Quran, as well as through historical accounts. This hadith you're talking about is from Sahih al-Bukhari, which is a Sunni Islamic hadith compiled of 60 books. And you're reading through 5134, where it talks about Aisha claiming that she was about 6 to 9 when she married the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. The hadith was fabricated and manipulated, proving to be false, because Aisha was actually about 18 to 19 when she married the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And I've already explained this in my very first video that starts this series. You can go look at it yourself. Now on to Surah 4 verse 34. I have not explained this in the first 2 videos I have already made. This verse is basically teaching men and women when you're married to submit to each other, telling men to guide your wives. And if your wife is immoral, you have to warn her. And if she continues the wrong path, then you must separate from her and divorce. Where it says to strike, it's not talking about literal strike, as in domestic violence. It is talking about separating, which is the first step when it comes to divorcing your spouse. And if you actually read through the Quran and not cherry pick specific verses, it would show you that there are many verses that command to respect women and not abuse them, such as in Surah 2, verse 231, Surah 4, verse 19, and Surah 30, verses 20 through 21. Surah 8, verse 39 is saying to fight against oppression and aggression until there is no more oppression or aggression. Nothing about fighting disbelievers. And no, fitna does not mean disbelief. It means oppression. Disbelief in Arabic would be kufar. A disbeliever would be a kafir. And you end your video by saying it's not fear, it's facts, or that it's not Islamophobia because you don't have a fear without a reason, or that you say that it's just reading. Let's just go ahead and unpack this part. Islamophobia means fear or hatred against Islam or Muslims in general, regardless if they are extreme or not. And many of you try to deny being Islamophobic or say that Islamophobia does not exist by saying that phobia means fear. Yes, the suffix phobia does mean fear and a rational fear. However, many phobias can lead to hatred and bigotry. I don't know if you ever watched Star Wars or any of the Star Wars movies, but there is one character named Yoda. And in one of the movies where Yoda is in, he says that fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, and hate leads to suffering. And that is 100% true. Some of you are going to be like, oh, but there's no Christophobia, or that there's no Judeophobia. Yeah, there is. Judeophobia is a synonym for anti-Semitism. Christophobia just means fear or hatred against Christians. And then you say that everywhere Islam spreads, peace goes away. Acting like that what is going on in many European countries is because of Islam. No, it's not. The problem is not Islam. The problem is that many European countries support open borders, where everybody cuts in line and does not get checked properly when entering the country, and then causing havoc, not respecting the law or the country's rules and ways of life. I am not anti-immigrant. I am pro-immigrant. I support immigration from all over the world. However, I do not support open borders. And being against open borders does not mean that I am 100% anti-immigration or xenophobic. What I want is people to be checked properly, have strong checkpoints, and have people come here, respect the way of life, assimilate, and obey the law. And anybody that does not do that should be deported, regardless of who they are, regardless of what country they come from. Go to Saudi Arabia, go to the United Arab Emirates, go to Morocco, go to Bahrain, go to Jordan. You don't see any of that happening over there. And those are Muslim majority countries, by the way. In Saudi Arabia, if you go and fly a Palestinian flag, screaming Free Palestine or From the River to the Sea or Globalize the Intifada, they would literally arrest you. Like, no joke. But what was that you said at the end of your video?
This isn't fear, it's facts.
Well, I'm sorry, Red, I had to tell you this, but the facts are not on your side. You see how easy it is for you to spew a bunch of BS and have it somewhat accepted, because if I say something, I get called an apologist for terrorism simply because I happen to be Muslim, ignoring the fact that I do not support terrorism of any kind. Radical Islamist and jihadist groups, regardless if it's the IRGC, so on and so forth, do not represent Islam, nor do they truly practice it. And may I remind you, about 80% of victims of radical Islamists are not even non-Muslims. They are Muslims that are not even extreme, proving that they do not truly represent Islam, because if they do, they will not be killing innocent Muslims. So no, radical Islamists are not true Muslims, nor do they practice true Islam.